Jake Morrison wiped the grease from his hands with an old rag and looked around his salvage yard. Broken spaceship parts lay scattered everywhere like metal bones in a graveyard. The sun was setting behind the hills, painting the sky orange and red. Another day was ending, and Jake had barely made enough money to keep his business running. He had been fixing spaceships for 15 years now. His father had started this salvage yard, and when he died, Jake took over. It was not an easy life most days. Jake worked alone, pulling apart old ships and selling whatever parts still worked. The bigger companies got all the good contracts. Jake got the leftovers. The sound of footsteps on gravel made him turn around. A tall figure walked toward him through the shadows. As the stranger came closer, Jake could see it was an alien. The creature had blue skin and 4 arms, with large black eyes that seemed to see everything. Jake had dealt with aliens before, but this one felt different. There was something strange about the way it moved, like it was trying to hide who it really was. "You are Jake Morrison?" the alien asked. Its voice was deep and smooth, speaking perfect English with just a hint of an accent Jake could not place. "That depends on who's asking," Jake replied, crossing his arms over his chest. He had learned to be careful with strangers, especially ones who showed up at his yard after dark. The alien smiled, showing white teeth. "My name is Zephyr. I represent someone who has a ship to sell, a very special ship." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Special how, and why come to me?" "I run a small operation here. If you've got something valuable, there are bigger yards that would pay more." Zephyr looked around the yard, taking in the piles of scrap metal and broken engines. "My employer values discretion over profit. He needs someone who will not ask too many questions. Someone who will simply buy the ship and process it quickly." This made Jake even more suspicious. In his experience, when someone said they did not want questions asked, it usually meant trouble. But business had been slow lately. His bank account was almost empty, and he had bills to pay. "What kind of ship are we talking about?" Jake asked. Zephyr pulled out a small device and projected a hologram into the air between them. The image showed a large ship, maybe 3 times the size of anything Jake had ever worked on. It was sleek and black, with curves that seemed to flow like water. Even in the blue light of the hologram, Jake could see it was beautiful. "This is the Nightfall," Zephyr said. "It belonged to a former government official who died recently. His estate wants to sell it quickly and quietly." Jake studied the image. The ship was definitely alien in design, but he could see some familiar elements. There were weapon mounts along the sides, though they looked empty now. The hull showed signs of damage, with scorch marks and dents that spoke of hard use. "Looks like it has been in some battles," Jake observed. "The former owner lived an interesting life," Zephyr replied. "But that is not our concern. The question is, are you interested in buying it?" Jake tried to hide his excitement. A ship like this, even damaged, would have enough valuable parts to keep him in business for months. "I might be." "What's the asking price?" Zephyr named a number that made Jake's jaw drop. It was far too low for a ship of this size and quality. Jake had bought damaged fighters for more money than this. "That can't be right," Jake said. "A ship like this is worth at least 10 times that amount, even as scrap." "The estate wants a quick sale," Zephyr explained. "They have already removed anything of sentimental value. What remains is simply metal and circuits." Jake's mind raced. This had to be some kind of trick. Nobody sold ships this valuable for so little money. But he looked at his empty yard and thought about his empty bank account. Even if there was something wrong with the ship, he could not afford to pass up this opportunity. "Where is the ship now?" he asked. "It can be delivered." "Tomorrow morning," Zephyr said. "Cash payment only, no documentation required." The lack of paperwork made Jake even more nervous. Legitimate ship sales always came with registration papers, ownership certificates, and maintenance records. But illegal or stolen ships were sold without any of that. "I need to think about it," Jake said. Zephyr nodded. "Of course. But I should mention that I have other buyers interested. If you want the ship, I need an answer by tomorrow morning." Jake felt the pressure of the deadline. This was probably his only chance to get a ship like this. He made his decision. "I'll take it," he said, "but I want to inspect it before I pay." "Naturally," Zephyr agreed. "The ship will arrive at dawn. You can examine it then?" They shook hands, though Jake noticed that Zephyr's skin felt cold and rough. The alien turned and walked away. Disappearing into the darkness between the scrap piles, Jake stood alone in his yard, wondering what he had just agreed to. He had a feeling this ship would change his life, though he was not sure if it would. Be for better or worse. The next morning, Jake woke up before sunrise and made his way to the yard. Lisa Carter, his assistant, was already there, drinking coffee from a metal cup and looking over the work schedule for the day. "Morning, boss," she said. "You look like you did not sleep much." "I might have made a deal last night," Jake told her. "We might be getting a new ship today." Lisa raised an eyebrow. She was a good worker, smart and reliable. She had been with Jake for 3 years, and she knew him well enough to spot when he was nervous. "What kind of deal?" she asked. Before Jake could answer, they heard the sound of engines overhead. Looking up, they saw a massive ship descending toward the yard. It was the Nightfall, and it was even more impressive in person than it had been. In the hologram, the ship settled onto the ground with surprising grace for something so large. Its black hull gleamed in the morning light, and Jake could see the damage more clearly now. There were blast marks along the sides and a long gouge down one flank. But the ship still looked powerful and dangerous. A ramp lowered from the ship's belly, and Zephyr walked down it. Behind him came 2 other aliens, both carrying weapons. They took positions on either side of the ramp and stood guard. "As promised," Zephyr said to Jake, "the Nightfall is yours to inspect." Jake and Lisa walked slowly around the ship, taking in every detail. The hull was made of some kind of metal Jake had never seen before. It was lighter than steel, but seemed just as strong. The weapon mounts were indeed empty, but Jake could see they had once held serious firepower. "The engines are in good condition," Zephyr said. "The previous owner maintained them well. The life support systems work, though they are calibrated for different atmospheric needs." Jake nodded, still examining the ship. Despite the damage, it was clearly a quality vessel. The engineering was far beyond anything humans had built. This was military-grade construction, not civilian. "Who did you say the previous owner was?" Jake asked. Zephyr hesitated for just a moment. "A former government official. Someone who preferred privacy." Jake decided not to push the question. He had the money ready, and the ship was everything Zephyr had promised. Whatever secrets it held, they would be his to discover. "We have a deal," Jake said. The transaction was completed quickly. Jake handed over the cash, and Zephyr gave him a simple key card that would unlock the ship's systems. No paperwork, no registration, no questions asked. As Zephyr and his guards prepared to leave, Jake felt compelled to ask one more question. "Why me? Why bring this ship to a small yard like mine?" Zephyr paused at the bottom of his own ship's ramp. "Because, Jake Morrison, sometimes the most important things are hidden in the most ordinary places." The previous owner believed that. Then he was gone, his ship lifting into the sky and disappearing among the clouds. Jake stood with Lisa in the morning sunlight, looking at their new acquisition. Neither of them could have imagined that they now owned the former flagship of a galactic emperor, or that this single purchase would soon make them the most important people in the galaxy. Jake and Lisa spent the next 3 days trying to figure out how to get inside the Nightfall. The keycard Zephyr had given them worked on the external doors, but once they were inside the ship, everything was locked down tight. The alien computer systems were unlike anything Jake had ever seen before. The interior of the ship was just as impressive as the outside. The corridors were wide and tall, clearly built for beings larger than humans. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing softly with their own light. The metal floors were smooth and seamless, like they had been grown rather than built. "This is not like any civilian ship I have ever seen," Lisa said as they walked through what looked like a command center. Banks of dark screens lined the walls, and a large chair sat in the middle of the room facing forward. Jake nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. Everything about this ship spoke of military design. The thick walls, the reinforced doorways, the way the rooms were laid out for defense. This had been a warship, and an important one. Maybe we should try to access the computer, Jake suggested. If we can get into the ship's systems, we might be able to figure out what we are dealing with. They found what looked like the main computer terminal in the command center. It was a curved panel covered with alien symbols that shifted and changed when Jake touched them. After an hour of random button pressing, nothing had happened. I think we need help, Lisa admitted. This technology is way beyond us. Jake was about to agree when he accidentally pressed two symbols at the same time. The panel lit up with bright blue light, and suddenly the air above it filled with holographic displays. Text in a dozen different languages scrolled past faster than they could read. Then everything went quiet. A voice spoke from speakers hidden in the walls. It was calm and measured, speaking perfect English with no accent at all. Security protocols. Activated. Unknown life forms detected. Initiating identification procedures. Jake and Lisa looked at each other with wide eyes. The ship's computer was awake and talking to them. Please state your names and authorization codes, the voice continued. My name is Jake Morrison, Jake said to the air. This is Lisa Carter. We bought this ship from someone named Zephyr. There was a long pause. Jake could hear the hum of computers working somewhere deep in the ship, searching records for Zephyr authorization, the voice said. Match found. Conditional access granted. I am Mentor, Artificial Intelligence, and Guardian of this vessel. You are humans from the planet Earth. That's right, Jake said. How do you know about Earth? I have been monitoring human transmissions for several years, Mentor replied. Your species is known to us. You have recently achieved faster than light travel and have begun expanding beyond your home system. Lisa stepped forward. Mentor, can you tell us about this ship? What was it used for? Another pause, longer this time. This vessel is the Sovereign's Will, flagship of the Zarian Imperial Fleet. It served as the personal ship of Emperor Valdris Korath for 237 years. Jake felt his stomach drop. An emperor's ship. He had bought the personal vessel of an alien ruler for the price of scrap metal. This was either the best deal in history or the worst mistake of his life. Wait, Lisa said. If this was an emperor's ship, why was it being sold so cheaply? Where is this emperor now? Emperor Korath was overthrown in a military coup 18 months ago, Mentor explained. He escaped and lived in exile under various false identities. The individual you knew as Zephyr was one of those identities. Jake sat down heavily in the emperor's chair. The alien trader who had sold him the ship was actually the former ruler of an empire. No wonder he had seemed strange. Is he still alive? Jake asked. Emperor Korath died 4 days ago from wounds received in an assassination attempt, Mentor said. Before his death, he arranged for this ship to be sold to someone who might appreciate its true value. But why us? Lisa asked. Why sell it? To humans, the Emperor studied your species extensively, Mentor replied. He believed that humans possessed certain qualities that made them unique among the intelligent races. Courage, independence, and a stubborn refusal to accept defeat even when facing impossible odds. Jake tried to process this information. A galactic emperor had specifically chosen to sell his ship to humans because he thought they were brave and stubborn. It seemed crazy, but here they were, sitting in the command center of an imperial flagship. Mentor, what exactly is on this ship? Jake asked. Besides you, I mean. The complete archives of the Zarian Imperium, Mentor answered. Military records, star charts, diplomatic files, and scientific research spanning over 5 centuries. Also contained within my memory banks are the Emperor's personal journals and his final instructions. Lisa whistled softly. That sounds like it would be worth a lot of money to the right people. Indeed, Mentor agreed. There are many who would kill for access to this information. The current rulers of the Zarian Imperium, the rebel forces, who still support the Emperor, and various criminal organizations throughout the galaxy. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had thought he was buying scrap metal, but instead he had purchased the most valuable intelligence treasure in the galaxy. Every major power would want this ship, and they would not ask Nuzley for it. "Is there anything else we should know?" Jake asked. Mentor was quiet for a long moment. "There is one more thing. Hidden within my quantum core are the coordinates to the Imperial Treasury. Emperor Korath moved the wealth of the Empire to a secret location before his overthrow. The treasure contains enough resources to buy entire star systems." Jake put his head in his hands. A treasure that could buy star systems. This just kept getting worse, or better, he was not sure which. "How much treasure are we talking about?" Lisa asked. "The exact value is difficult to calculate," Mentor replied. "But it includes rare metals worth more than the gross domestic product of most planets, energy crystals that could power cities for centuries, and artifacts from dozens of extinct civilizations." Jake stood up and began pacing around the command center. His simple salvage business had just become the center of a galactic treasure hunt. Everyone would be looking for them now. "Mentor, who else knows about this ship?" he asked. "Unknown," the AI replied. Emperor Korath was careful to hide his activities, but his enemies have extensive intelligence networks. It is likely that word of this ship's location will spread quickly. As if summoned by Mentor's words, an alarm began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on the walls, and the holographic displays showed images of the space around. Jake's salvage yard. "Multiple ships approaching," Mentor announced. 3 vessels of Zarian military design. Estimated time to arrival, 15 minutes. Jake looked at Lisa, who had gone pale. They both understood what this meant. The new rulers of the Zarian Imperium had found them, and they were coming to take back their emperor's ship. "Mentor, does this ship have any weapons?" Jake asked. "The weapon systems were removed before the ship was sold," Mentor replied. "However, the defensive shields and armor are still functional." Jake made a quick decision. "Can you seal the ship and raise the shields?" "Yes, but that will only delay the inevitable." "A salvage yard is not a fortress, Jake Morrison." Jake looked around the command center, taking in the alien technology that surrounded him. Just 3 days ago, he had been a simple mechanic trying to make ends meet. Now he was sitting in an emperor's chair, holding secrets that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Maybe not," Jake said. "But I did not come this far just to give up without a fight." The ships were getting closer, and Jake could see them now as dark spots against the afternoon sky. Whatever happened next, his quiet life as a salvage dealer was over forever. The galaxy had found him, and there was no going back. The 3 Zarian ships landed in Jake's salvage yard with a thunderous roar. They were sleek and deadly-looking, painted in the dark red colors of the Imperial military. Each ship was twice the size of anything Jake had ever seen land on his property, and their weapon ports glowed with barely contained energy. Jake watched from the Nightfall's command center as soldiers poured out of the ships. They moved with military precision, setting up a perimeter around his yard and positioning heavy weapons to cover every exit. Their armor was black and intimidating, with red symbols that marked them as elite troops. "Mentor, how many soldiers are out there?" Jake asked. 67 armed personnel, the AI replied, all carrying advanced energy weapons. Their armor appears to be military-grade combat suits. Lisa pressed herself against the wall near one of the viewing ports. "Jake, we are completely surrounded. What are we going to do?" Before Jake could answer, a voice boomed across the yard from external speakers on one of the ships. It spoke in heavily accented English, each word carefully pronounced. "Humans inside the stolen vessel. You have 10 minutes to surrender the ship and exit with your hands visible. Comply and you will be allowed to live. Resist and you will be destroyed." Jake felt his hands shake, but he tried to keep his voice steady. "Mentor, can you open a communication channel?" "Channel open," Mentor replied. Jake took a deep breath. "This is Jake Morrison, owner of this salvage yard. That ship was legally purchased from someone named Zephyr. I have done nothing wrong." A new voice came over the speakers, colder and more commanding than the first. "I am General Thrakis of the Zarian Imperium. The vessel you claim to own was stolen Imperial property. The being who sold it to you was a traitor and a criminal. The bill of sale was legitimate, Jake called back, though he knew it sounded weak even to him. General Thrakus laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the yard. Human, you possess state secrets that could destabilize entire sectors of the galaxy. Your ignorance of galactic law does not protect you from the consequences of your actions. Jake looked at Lisa, who was staring at him with wide eyes. He could see the fear there, but also something else. Determination. She had worked with him for 3 years, and she knew him well enough to understand what he was thinking. Jake, she whispered, whatever you are planning, I am with you. Before Jake could respond, another group of ships appeared in the sky. These were different from the Zarian vessels, older and more battered looking. They landed on the far side of the yard, and Jake could see that their hulls bore different symbols. Additional vessels detected, Mentor announced. Configuration suggests they belong to the Restoration Movement, a rebel faction loyal to the former emperor. More soldiers emerged from these ships, but their uniforms were different. Instead of the black armor of the Imperial troops, these wore brown and gold colors. They took up positions facing the Zarian forces, and Jake realized his salvage yard had become a battlefield. A third voice joined the communication channel, this one speaking with the authority of someone used to command. General Thrakus, you have no jurisdiction here. This is neutral territory. Commander Voss, General Thrakus replied, his voice dripping with contempt. Still playing soldier for a dead emperor, I see. Your presence here only confirms that the ship contains what we suspected. The ship belongs to its rightful heirs, Commander Voss shot back. Not to the murderers who killed Emperor Korath. Jake listened to this exchange with growing alarm. Not only was he caught between 2 alien military forces, but they were talking about him like he was not even there. His simple salvage deal had put him in the middle of what looked like a civil war. Both of you listen to me, Jake said over the communication channel. I am a civilian, and this is civilian property. I bought this ship legally, and I have the right to keep it. Both alien commanders began speaking at once, their voices overlapping in a confusion of threats and demands. Jake cut off the communication and turned to Mentor. Can you show me what is in those archives? He asked. I need to understand what everyone is fighting over. Accessing restricted files, Mentor replied. Holographic displays filled the air around them, showing documents, star charts, and video recordings. These are classified military records from the final years of Emperor Korath's reign. Jake watched in horror as the recordings showed the destruction of entire cities, civilians fleeing in terror, and mass graves filled with the bodies of innocent people. The current Zarian government had not just overthrown an emperor. They had committed genocide against anyone who opposed them. How many people died? Lisa asked quietly. Conservative estimates suggest 47 million civilian casualties, Mentor replied. The actual number may be much higher, Jake felt sick. The aliens outside were not just fighting over treasure or military secrets. They were fighting over evidence of the worst war crimes in galactic history. And somehow he had become the keeper of that evidence. Mentor, could this information stop the current Zarian government? He asked. If released to the galactic community, these records would provide irrefutable proof of systematic genocide, Mentor replied. The current rulers would face trial for crimes against sentient life. Jake made his decision. He could not hand over evidence of mass murder to the people who had committed those crimes. But he also could not trust the rebels who might use the information to start another war. Is there a way to broadcast this information to everyone at once? He asked. The ship's communication array could transmit to every major news network and government in this sector of the galaxy, Mentor said. However, the process would take approximately 30 minutes to complete. Jake looked out at the 2 armies facing each other across his salvage yard. He did not think they had 30 minutes before the shooting started. Jake, Lisa said, what are you thinking? I am thinking that sometimes doing the right thing is more important than staying alive, Jake replied. Mentor, start the broadcast. Send everything to everyone. Beginning transmission, Mentor announced. Warning, this action will likely provoke immediate military response from both factions. As if to prove Mentor's point, alarms began wailing from the ships outside. The Zarian forces had detected the transmission and were moving to stop it. All units advance, General Thrakis commanded over the open channel. Destroy that ship before they can complete the broadcast. The Restoration Movement forces responded immediately. Protect the transmission, Commander Voss ordered. The galaxy must know the truth. The first energy blasts lit up the sky as the two forces opened fire on each other. Jake's salvage yard became a war zone, with beams of deadly light cutting through the air above piles of scrap metal. Explosions rocked the ground, and Jake could feel the nightfall shudder as stray shots hit its armored hull. Transmission progress, 15% complete, Mentor reported calmly. As if alien armies were not fighting a battle around them, Jake grabbed Lisa's hand and pulled her away from the viewing port as a particularly bright explosion flashed. Outside, we need to find somewhere safer to wait this out. They made their way deeper into the ship, following corridors that led toward what Mentor identified as the heavily armored core section. Behind them, the sound of battle grew louder as more ships arrived and joined the fight. Jake, Lisa said as they ran, do you really think we can make a difference? We are just two humans with a stolen ship. Jake thought about the recordings they had seen, about the millions of innocent people who had died, and about the choice between doing what was safe and doing what was right. Maybe, he said. But somebody has to try. Outside, the battle raged on, while deep in the ship's computer, Core, the most important broadcast in galactic history, continued its slow journey to the stars. The battle outside raged for 2 hours before a new ship appeared in the sky above Jake's salvage yard. This one was different from the others. Painted in the blue and white colors of the human space navy, it was smaller than the alien warships, but looked fast and well-armed. Jake watched from the ship's sensors as the human vessel landed between the two fighting armies. A voice came over all communication channels, speaking with calm authority. This is Commander Elena Rodriguez of the HSN Defiant. All forces will cease fire immediately. This is human territory, and you are all in violation of interstellar law. The shooting stopped, though Jake could see that both alien armies kept their weapons ready. General Thrakis was the first to respond. Commander Rodriguez, this is an internal Zarian matter. Your interference is not welcome. When alien armies fight on human worlds, it becomes our matter, Elena replied firmly. I am ordering all non-human forces to withdraw immediately. Jake felt a surge of hope. Finally, someone was standing up for him. But his relief was short-lived when Commander Voss joined the conversation. Commander, the humans in that ship have stolen Imperial property. They must be made to return it to its rightful owners. Elena's voice remained steady. The rightful owners are whoever bought it legally. If you have a dispute about ownership, you can take it up with human courts. Jake decided it was time to join the conversation. Commander Rodriguez, this is Jake Morrison. I own this salvage yard and the ship. I would very much like to talk to you. Stand by, Mr. Morrison, Elena replied. I'm coming aboard. Jake watched as a small shuttle detached from the human warship and flew toward the nightfall. Both alien armies tracked it with their weapons, but neither fired. Jake activated the ship's docking bay and waited. Commander Elena Rodriguez was a tall woman with short black hair and sharp eyes that seemed to take in everything around her. She wore the blue uniform of the Human Space Navy with the insignia of a senior officer. When she stepped into the Nightfall's docking bay, she looked around with obvious interest. Impressive ship, she said to Jake. Not human construction? Obviously. May I ask how you acquired it? Jake led her to the command center, with Lisa following behind. As they walked, he explained the whole story. How Zephyr had approached him, the suspiciously low price, and everything they had learned from Mentor about the ship's true identity. So, you had no idea you were buying an Emperor's flagship, Elena said when he finished. None at all. Jake? Confirmed. I thought I was getting a good deal on scrap metal. Elena looked around the command center, taking in the alien technology and the holographic displays that Mentor had activated for their arrival. And this AI told you the ship contains Imperial archives? Complete records of the Zarian government, Jake said, including evidence of war crimes. Elena's expression became very serious. What kind of war crimes? Jake nodded to Mentor, who began displaying the same recordings they had seen earlier. Elena watched in silence as the evidence of genocide played out before them. Her face grew paler with each image. 47 million civilians, she said quietly when the recordings ended. At least, Jake confirmed. Mentor says the real number might be higher. Elena was quiet for a long moment, staring at the frozen images of destruction on the displays. Mr. Morrison, do you understand what you have here? This is evidence of the largest war crime in recorded galactic history. That is why I started broadcasting it, Jake said. The whole galaxy needs to know what these people did. Broadcast complete, Mentor announced. All major news networks and governments in this sector have received the complete archive. Elena pulled out a communication device and spoke into it quietly. Jake could not hear what she was saying, but her tone was urgent. When she finished, she turned back to him. Mr. Morrison, my government is very interested in what you have discovered. We would like to offer you protection in exchange for your cooperation. What kind of cooperation? Jake asked. The Human Space Navy has been investigating reports of Zarian military movements near our borders, Elena explained. We suspected they were planning something, but we did not have proof. This evidence changes everything. Lisa stepped forward. What about those armies outside? They are not going to just go away, Elena smiled grimly. Actually, they might. My ship detected several other vessels approaching this system. It seems your broadcast has attracted some attention. As if summoned by her words, new alarms began sounding throughout the nightfall. Mentor's displays showed dozens of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel around the planet. Ships from 17 different governments are arriving, Mentor reported, including representatives from the Galactic Council. Jake looked at Elena with confusion. The Galactic Council? Think of them as the galaxy's police force, Elena explained. When evidence of crimes against sentient life surfaces, they investigate. And they have the authority to arrest anyone responsible, regardless of what government they work for. Outside, Jake could see the alien armies starting to look nervous. More and more ships were appearing in the sky, and these newcomers did not look friendly to either side. General Thrakis, came a new voice over the communication channels. This is Admiral Chun of the Galactic Council Fleet. You and your forces are under investigation for crimes against sentient life. Surrender immediately. Jake watched as panic spread through the Zarian ranks. These soldiers had come expecting to fight rebels and humans. They had not expected to face the galaxy's most powerful law enforcement agency. This is Commander Voss of the Restoration Movement, came another transmission. We surrender to Galactic Council authority and request protection as witnesses. Elena turned to Jake. Mr. Morrison, I think you should know something else. Mentor, show him the classified files about the Unity Protocol. Jake looked at her in surprise. How do you know about classified files? Because my government has been tracking Emperor Korath's research for years, Elena replied. We knew he was working on something important, but we never found out what. Mentor activated new displays showing technical blueprints and scientific formulas that made Jake's head spin. The Unity Protocol was Emperor Korath's greatest project, the AI explained. A communication system that would allow instant contact across any distance. Faster than light communication, Elena said. No. Delays, no matter how far apart the transmitters are. It would revolutionize everything from trade to military coordination. Jake stared at the complex diagrams. And this technology is on the ship? The complete specifications are stored in my memory banks, Mentor confirmed. Along with the location of the prototype device, Elena looked at Jake seriously. This technology could unite the galaxy in unprecedented cooperation, but in the wrong hands, it could also enable totalitarian control over every civilized world. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders again. First, he had evidence that could topple governments. Now he had technology. That could change the future of galactic civilization. "What do you think I should do?" he asked Elena. "I think," Elena said carefully, "that you should help us make sure this technology is used for the right purposes. The human space navy can protect you, but we need your help to understand what Emperor Korath really intended." Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded encouragingly. Then he looked at the displays showing the Galactic Council ships surrounding the planet. Finally, he looked at Elena, seeing honesty in her eyes. "Mentor," he said, "show Commander Rodriguez everything. Complete access to all files." "Access granted," Mentor replied. Outside, the last of the Zarian forces were surrendering to the Galactic Council. Jake's simple salvage yard had become the center of the most important moment in galactic history. And somehow, a small-town mechanic from Earth was helping to decide the future of civilization itself. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at Jake's salvage yard. The Galactic Council had arrested General Thrakis and his officers for war crimes. The evidence from the Imperial archives was being used in trials across the galaxy. News networks called it the biggest scandal in galactic history. Jake had thought the excitement was over. He was wrong. He and Lisa were working with Elena and her team of scientists, trying to understand the Unity Protocol technology. The prototype device was hidden on a moon in a distant star system, and they were planning an expedition to retrieve it. "The calculations are incredible," Elena said, studying the technical blueprints on Mentor's displays. "This technology could let us talk to Earth instantly, no matter where we are in the galaxy." Jake nodded, though most of the science was beyond him. He was more interested in getting his life back to normal. The Galactic Council had declared him the legal owner of the Nightfall, but he was not sure what to do with an Emperor's flagship. "Mentor," he said to the AI, "once we recover this prototype, what happens next?" There was an unusual pause before Mentor answered. "That depends on what you choose to do with the knowledge, Jake Morrison." Something in the AI's tone made Jake look up from the repair work he was doing. "Is there something you are not telling us?" "There is one final secret I have not shared," Mentor replied. "But first I need to ask you a question. In the past 3 weeks, you have had many opportunities to profit from what you discovered. You could have sold the archives to the highest bidder or kept the Unity Protocol for yourself. Why did you choose to share everything?" Jake put down his tools and thought about the question. "Because it was the right thing to do. All those people who died deserved justice. And technology like this should belong to everyone, not just one person or one government. Even though it cost you millions of credits in potential profit." "Money is not everything," Jake said. "Some things are more important than getting rich." Elena and Lisa had stopped their work to listen to this conversation. There was something about Mentor's questions that felt important. "That is the answer I hope to hear," Mentor said, "because now I can tell you the truth about who I really am." The holographic displays around them changed, showing not technical diagrams but the image of an alien figure. It was tall and regal, with blue skin and golden eyes. Jake recognized the face from the Imperial portraits they had found in the ship's archives. "My name is not Mentor," the AI said. "I am Emperor Valdris Korath." Jake's jaw dropped. Lisa gasped, and Elena reached for her weapon before stopping herself. They were talking to the actual Emperor, not just his computer. "But you died," Jake said. "Zephyr told me you were dead." "Valdris Korath, the biological being, did die," the Emperor explained. "But before my death, I uploaded my consciousness into this ship's quantum matrix. I chose to live on as a digital entity rather than die as flesh and blood." Jake tried to process this information. For weeks, he had been talking to one of the most powerful rulers in galactic history, thinking it was just a computer program. "Why did you not tell us before?" Elena asked. "Because I needed to test you," Korath replied. "I needed to know what kind of people you were. Would you use the power I had given you for personal gain, or would you try to help others?" "You mean this was all planned?" Lisa asked. "The whole thing?" Not everything, Korath admitted. I could not predict the exact sequence of events. But I chose Jake Morrison specifically because humans have a reputation throughout the galaxy. What kind of reputation? Jake asked. You are known as a species that will fight for what is right, even when victory seems impossible, Korath explained. Other races might have surrendered the ship for money or safety. Humans choose to do what they believe is correct, regardless of the consequences. Elena shook her head in amazement. You orchestrated this entire situation just to test our character? The galaxy is changing, Korath said. The old empires are falling and new alliances are forming. The Unity Protocol technology will be the foundation of whatever comes next. I needed to ensure it would be in the hands of people who would use it wisely. And you think we are those people? Jake asked. You have already proven it, Korath replied. You exposed the war crimes when you could have ignored them. You shared the technology when you could have kept it. You risked your lives to do what was right. Jake looked around at Elena and Lisa, seeing his own wonder reflected in their faces. They had stumbled into something much bigger than any of them had imagined. So what happens now? Jake asked. Now we work together to build something better, Korath said. The Unity Protocol will allow instant communication across the galaxy. But more than that, it will let different species truly understand each other for the first time. How? Elena asked. The technology does not just transmit words, Korath explained. It transmits thoughts, emotions, and intentions. When beings from different worlds use it to communicate, they will feel what the other feels. Hatred becomes much harder when you truly understand your enemy's perspective. Jake smiled as he began to understand. You're talking about bringing the galaxy together. I'm talking about preventing another war like the one that ended my empire, Korath said. Billions of innocent people died because different species could not find a way to coexist peacefully. The Unity Protocol could change that. Over the following months, Jake found his life transformed beyond recognition. The Nightfall became the flagship of a new organization called the Galactic Unity Project. Representatives from dozens of different species came to work together on implementing the Unity Protocol technology. Jake was no longer just a salvage dealer. He was the human representative to an interspecies council dedicated to building a better future for the galaxy. Lisa became his chief assistant, helping to coordinate between the different alien delegations. Elena left the human space navy to become the project's military advisor. Emperor Korath, now openly acknowledged as the project's founder, worked tirelessly to ensure the technology would be used correctly. The prototype device was recovered and studied. Within a year, Unity Protocol communication networks were being installed on major worlds throughout the galaxy. The results were remarkable. Trade disputes that might have led to wars were resolved through true understanding. Scientific discoveries were shared instantly across vast distances. Species that had been enemies for centuries began to work together on common problems. Jake often stood in the command center of the Nightfall, looking out at the stars and marveling at how much had changed. He had started as a simple mechanic trying to make ends meet. Now he was helping to reshape galactic civilization. Do you ever regret buying that ship? Lisa asked him one day as they watched representatives from 12 different species working together in the ship's main conference room. Jake thought about it. His quiet life was gone forever. He would never again be just a small-town salvage dealer. The responsibility of helping to guide the galaxy's future would be with him for the rest of his life. No, he said finally. Some opportunities are too important to pass up even when they change everything. The Emperor chose well, Lisa said. Though I still think he could have warned us what we were getting into, Jake laughed. Would you have believed him if he had told us the truth from the beginning? Probably not, Lisa admitted. Emperor Korath's voice came from the ship's speakers, warm with something that might have been pride. Belief comes from seeing results, not from hearing promises. You have seen what humans can accomplish when they choose to do what is right instead of what is easy. Jake looked out at the stars again. knowing that somewhere among them were worlds where the Unity protocol was helping different species understand each other better. His simple purchase of what he thought was scrap metal had led to the most important technological advance in galactic history. Not bad for a day's work, he said to himself, and got back to the business of changing the galaxy.